Today we thought we'd have a little celebration of Buddha's birthday. In honor of which we're mostly not doing very much. Ironically, in order for some people not to do very much, sometimes there's a lot of activity around them in support. So you should always bear that in mind and remember to be thankful, because creating a space where some of us aren't doing much requires something from a variety of beings, if not in fact all beings. So gratitude should be part of our observance today. In this commemoration, we are once again entering into and embodying the Buddhist mythos, the Buddhist universe. Looking at the world, the human spirit has created quite a number of mythos or mythoi. At the boundary of what we think of as our tangible, our identifiable life, and our life that is not tangible or identifiable or graspable in any way. So the Buddhist mythos is, as you know, you could say is non-theistic. Whereas, for instance, the mythoi that arose in the Middle East, they tend to be theistic, and for that reason, some people think that there is some incompatibility. And I don't think that that's true myself. But it's very, very possible for a mythos to lose its mythic roots in our deep life. And then it turns into a kind of edifice. And then people start relating to it as like a kind of building, which was never the intention. So that's happened with Buddhism too, to some degree. And to avoid that, we need to, I think we need to make sure that our sense of the the real depth of our life is not lost sight of. Even if that's one of those things that we say, well, I can't really feel that. If you could feel it, it wouldn't be the real depth of your life. But to know it's there is important. Yeah. One of the ways that knowing is supported is by being still and not really doing anything. I've heard some people say that the real Buddhism is what some people think is the oldest version. And that as the Buddhist mythos has changed and developed, drawing its life from that deep place, it's moved away from what Buddha had in mind. And again, I don't think that's true. I was thinking recently that what has changed is that inspired by our deep life and in interaction with this complicated, always changing world, Buddhists, like others, they've their description of reality has changed. So, for instance, if we look back as far as we can, and as you know by now, that's not all that far. Not much further than maybe the 4th century of the Common Era. So that's a long way from Buddha's time. But anyway, if we look back there, we see Buddhists saying reality is dukkha. Reality is unease or imbalance. And that was, was pretty penetrating and cogent message, which is still valid today. But then after some, centuries went by, some Buddhists started saying something different, a little bit different. And they started saying, wait, no, reality is empty. What they meant was reality is dukkha, but reality is empty. And then some more time went by, and the Buddhists were practicing their way, and some of them started saying, wait, no, reality is mind. So, first, reality is dukkha. And then, wait, no, reality is shunyata. And then, after a while, no, reality is vijnana. Another few turns, and then it was, no, reality is ananda. Reality is bliss. These are all utterances of Buddha's message, the sound of which continues to roll forth. And maybe in a while, some people will come up with another version. Well, actually, the Zenists kind of did. Respecting that reality is dukkha, shunyata, vijnana, ananda. The Zenists came along and said, oh, reality is this! Which is also true. So the Buddha way today contains these powerful dynamics, all of them still alive. And each of them a facet of the jewel that is Buddha Dharma. And which one is the most, I don't know, that draws you most or inspires you the most? Maybe largely a matter of karma. When I was in boarding school, maybe it was I can't remember, he was a missionary priest, came and spoke to the student body and said, he used to wonder when Catholics would join an order of one sort or another, which one would they join? And he said, it looked to him like, well, people tended to join the ones that they were familiar with. So when I was in my kind of horrible parochial school, the girls were drawn to the Sisters of Mercy, who were, at the time, like kind of misnamed, but never mind. And in my boarding school, I noticed that the boys who were moving in that direction, they were moving towards the Benedictines who were running the school. And there are quite a few orders around, and people seem to be drawn to the ones they're familiar with. And when I was in boarding school, I started sitting zazen, and I went to Los Altos Haiku Zendo that Lesson Mary Kay and some others had established in Los Altos, and invited Suzuki Roshi to come and talk. And so those were the first Buddhists I was exposed to, and that connection stayed alive pretty much ever since. I did had a brief kind of little journey into Vajrayana Buddhism when the late Kalu Rinpoche, meaning the last one, not the current one, was traveling around the world and meeting with people. I had a good friend in a university who was a close student of his, and so he would invite me to go and hear Kalu Rinpoche speak when he was here, and so that became a connection. And so I actually took refuge with Kawabache and got a Buddhist name and attended a couple of 2 or 3 empowerments, and also the Bodhisattva ceremony, which is a little different for them. It was actually a ceremonial entry into the Bodhisattva vow. And so I attended that ceremony in San Francisco here, and part of that ceremony, as you may know, is a so-called tantric feast, where the 5 forbidden substances are served. And I only remember 2 of them. One was some gumdrops, which I rather enjoyed. So they passed gumdrops all around. It was like, must have been 50 people there, maybe more. And then someone came around with a big ewer of some kind, and people were putting out their hands, and some liquid, and they were drinking it. So I did. I went since it was like, I don't know what it was, some very potent alcohol, which is one of the 5 forbidden elements. And as far as I know, there was no sex. That's one of them too. And there was no meat. And then one of them, no one seems to know what it is. The Sanskrit word means parched kidney bean, which doesn't make any sense to anybody. Anyway, so that was a vital, powerful, and important connection that, in its way, is still alive. And so all of us have received and have taken into our care this remarkable mythos with its periodic proclamations of reality, dukkha, shunyata, vijnana, ananda, and this. All of them vibrantly alive and important. All of them disclosing something about things as they are. So when we celebrate the baby Buddha's birth, we are celebrating our receiving of this remarkable gift. And depending on how you tell the story, this little guy here, when he arrived on Earth, supposedly he popped out of his mom walking. Must have been startling. And he says, those famous words, above the heavens and below the earth, I am the honored one. And easy to misinterpret that. Maybe some people who aren't yet familiar with Buddhist mythos might think he was talking about himself. Instead of talking about everyone. Well, I guess that's what I wanted to say today. thought we'd have our ceremony at the noon hour. And then hopefully everyone brought a little lunch, and then after lunch we can hang out together some more. And that'll be that. There was some demand for a day like this, and that's okay. But as you see, the interest was somewhat limited. So, especially as I become more decrepit, I'm more interested in what people are enthusiastic about. So, if there's other things people are enthusiastic about that we're not doing, I'd be happy to hear about that too.
Square dancing.
I was just going to say, not square dancing, I was going to say the whirling dance of the dervishes. That could be a real trip.
Not on this floor.
No, I guess not. Yeah, so keep those cards and letters coming, folks, as they say. Let's see what happens. Do you have any questions this morning?
I was thinking as you were saying the different proclamations that I kind of lined up with the Four Noble Truths. Would you see that connection or speak to that?
Dukkha, shunyata, vijnana, ananda. Yeah, that would be an exercise we could do. Considering this, sure. I guess the most obvious association is, Shravakayana, perfect wisdom, Yogacara, Vajrayana, Zen, as in each in its particular way, an expression of the Four Noble Truths, which remain alive in all of them. We certainly, or I have not, outrun reality as dukkha. No, not yet anyway. These other elements are likewise present. Yes.
When you say reality...
Oh, what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You're next. Go ahead.
As a child, I was asking, what does it mean that Jesus was quoted as saying, no one shall enter the kingdom of heaven except through me. And I now, for many years, have had a new interpretation of that because of Buddhism and other schools that I've been exposed to. And what you just said about the baby Buddha's words fit with that perfectly. He wasn't speaking about himself. He was speaking about everyone, or the I, or this idea of self, or the turning.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to me that this is in This is in everything of every religion that I've looked into on the mystical or deeper layer. But I feel sad often about the division on the surfaces and the fundamentalism.
Yeah. And the tendency to triumphalism, particularly in the Abrahamic faith, is pretty strong. Fortunately, people haven't always resisted that. The quote I remember is Jesus said, "No one comes to the Father but through me,"
Yes.
which I think is a profoundly mystical utterance.
Yes.
Nothing triumphalist about it.
Yeah. Both of those quotes are correct.
Mm.
Entering the kingdom of heaven and coming to the Father are both quoted, are both correct quotes.
Mm. David, did you?
If we're just sort of walking around from day to day, we think of reality as catching the bus, having enchiladas for dinner, whatever. So because of that, it seems that there might be a temptation to think that the reality that the Buddha is talking about is some other reality, something deeper, something more profound, something along those lines. And then you can start talking about emptiness and mind and so on and so forth. So could you flesh that out just a little bit?
That may have been one inspiration for the Zenists to say no. Because once you start thinking, for instance, that emptiness was some other layer, and once you get through the crud, you can get to the emptiness, then you're screwed, basically. So these somewhat successive proclamations all have something remedial about them. And, one thing that needs to be remedied is this notion that reality, as it unfolds to us, isn't really what's going on. There's cooler stuff happening somewhere if you can only get to it. And that is not accurate. One thing I just remembered after that Bodhisattva initiation with Kala Rinpoche, when was that? I was very young. I was like 20 or something. And I was driving back from San Francisco to my family home in Hillsborough. And within minutes of leaving that ceremony, I started to get sick. And by the time I got to the house, I had a raging fever. And I had the worst flu I had ever had. And I thought, this is not an accident. Some karmic thing had happened. Once I got well, I was very grateful.